This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Changes OPEC Plus is making to its oil production quota system will likely spark a wave of upstream investments among members, particularly in low-cost Gulf producers, diminishing concerns of long-term supply shortages. The OPEC Plus approved on Sunday a new mechanism to assess members' maximum production capacity, which will be used to set output baselines from 2027. This may seem a highly technical matter, but it could, in theory, mark a welcome change from recent years' turmoil that saw some members flagrantly exceed production quotas as OPEC de facto leader Saudi Arabia struggled to impose discipline, confounding the oil market.
Oil prices held firm on Tuesday as traders weighed up risks from Ukrainian drone strikes on Russian energy sites and mounting US-Venezuela tensions. Brent crude futures fell 12 cents, or 0.2%, to $63.05 a barrel by 13:01 GMT. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was down 7 cents, or 0.1%, to stand at $59.25 a barrel. The latest goings-on in the oversupplied global picture putting pressure on prices have been balanced by hits on Russian infrastructure that accelerated through the weekend, as well as bubbling tensions between US-Venezuela, said Rystad analyst Janav Shah.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Russia's seaborne diesel and gasoil exports rose 3% in November from October to about 2.37 million metric tons despite recent U.S. sanctions and infrastructure damage caused by drone attacks, data from market sources and LSEG showed. Exports of ultra-low sulfur diesel via Primorsk, Russia's largest outlet for diesel shipments, surged 39.3% month-on-month to 1.221 million tons as major producers completed seasonal and unplanned overhauls, the market sources added. By contrast, exports from Russia's southern ports fell sharply amid drone strikes on infrastructure and regional refineries.
Russian President Vladimir Putin starts a two-day visit to India from Thursday, pitching for more sales of Russian oil, missile systems and fighter jets in a bid to restore energy and defense ties hit by U.S. pressure on the South Asian nation. Russia has supplied arms to India for decades, with New Delhi emerging as its top buyer of seaborne oil despite Western sanctions after Moscow launched its invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. But India's crude imports are set to hit a three-year low this month, after the tightening of sanctions on Russia that coincide with its growing purchases of U.S. oil and gas. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. China has issued the first batch of new rare earth export licenses that should accelerate shipments to certain customers, a source said on Tuesday, fulfilling a key outcome of the summit between Presidents Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. The approvals come after months of disruption triggered by China's introduction of rare earth export controls in April at the height of the trade war. By forcing companies to apply for licenses for each export, Beijing created shortages that brought parts of the auto supply chain to a halt and handed it enormous leverage in trade talks with Washington.
Gold prices fell 1% on Tuesday, pressured by rising U.S. Treasury yields and profit booking following a 6-week high hit in the prior session, while silver pulled back from its record high hit the previous day. Spot gold lost 0.7% to $4,204.50 per ounce by 12:15 GMT, after falling over 1% earlier in the session. U.S. gold futures for February delivery were down 0.9% at $4,235.50 per ounce. The combination of a stronger dollar, higher Treasury yields and profit-taking have conspired to take some shine off of gold, said independent analyst Ross Norman.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
India's palm oil imports rose slightly in November as lower prices prompted refiners to increase purchases of the tropical oil while cutting back on more expensive soyoil and sunflower oil purchases, according to 5 dealers. Higher palm oil imports by India, the world's largest buyer of vegetable oils, could help top producers Indonesia and Malaysia reduce their stocks and support benchmark Malaysian palm oil futures, while putting pressure on U.S. soy oil futures BOK2. Palm oil imports rose 4.6% month-on-month in November to 630,000 metric tons, according to estimates from dealers.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.